Mwanchu murigereria kwe Nsoko TV mbuya mona soko gendra gusangana intwe yene nsemo ya kabere ya mayakuru Nsoko nsemo na boigo Enkwana Y'Oborai butukobe gabuna twachika gukoriera eira omwishimiwa Huldah Momanyi Hastly onyara kobakago ikana ase studio maskanya manekegima enda chigosanga na intwe na bego kweneke bunango sangare nayo mwanchu murigerane mono omugusi gutumanye sabari yaye Y'Oborai na boigo hegekakiria nyara kobaga kobera ase ensega ya Kenya sofa ngaki binto bigenda tiko karibu sana sensemo yemitando ito yekerero Facebook YouTube twasore live na bali bago tubwatire kurwa se chinka enamba yesi minorega gwa se screen yago handake na boranyore na rubwate rivorio ryogosanga nerigaso ogotasire chingaki nganchira bono mwarigani ase studio ase nchira ya bene anyare koba kago tumanya amarietae na boiga erinde tosoe ase Enkwana Y'Oborai tko bwarero mushimiwa Huldah Momanyi, pleasure having you, karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Omwana Mintona Kyogendelete.
Mbiyatore?
Yes.
Mbiyamono for finding time in your busy schedule go chaga gerindo sange na into camera yago nerega na buku mukwani mugusi omumanyie ngakibwa nyare ko buku kwirira sense ya Kenya gaiga nande what to expect asobot ko bwarero.
Abana ba minto abagusi asemwabeta na abakwaniri oyo mweshimiwa honorable representative Huldah Momanyi Hastly all the way from the great state of Minnesota, USA. A proud Kenyan American, but omogusi at heart. Yes.
Thank you so much. Let us start from there. A proud born Kenyan American. Kero kwa na iga Kenya nka yuboire nka.
Nkanya miso. Ekero wa ikire tundubali ya tombe gwa ikire nka nyame miso gali. Yes.
Iga bantu banya miso hello mheshimiwa.
Bantu banya miso mura nga imore.
Karibu sana. Mheshimiwa, now let's start immediately.
Yes.
Ngaki sabari agechete and how did you find yourself in the United States being a Kenyan born?
It's only by God's grace.
Yeah.
My family got America in the 1980s, and then in 1990s to kind of recognize miaka kianda. America Italians say that is easy. Into what the challenges to the point where we were very close to being deported. Yeah. Yes, from the country, but nyasao those asima akarara that story anetera agabu bona gani ndi bona moko nagire mweshimiwa, you know, so it's only by God's grace that I'm here, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Ase ogotwera esabari bono kwarure ase ense ya Kenya. How old are you, by the way, Kiroko and
Kianda miaka kianda. Bono. Mokena arenge.
Omokesa lakini ko ikarende gari mo kamenya buya gwa ogasoa sense mo yechisemi. Bono ngakiwachite okaba let us say inspired aso goswa mangana iga a leadership. Okaranga there is something now I should offer. Ko ene kinkoranda bantu bana.
The leadership for me, it was instilled in me by my parents. I saw them lead within their communities, even without that title. They were still leading, and so I can answer. You know, my high school, I was the leader on the sports arena, and then I continued on with my leadership into college. I was the president of the multicultural groups, and then from there, now I started serving my community in various capacities. It's not until I got to a point where I realized that intentional, sustainable change you get it when you have policies and laws that actually serve your constituency. And that's how I ended up being now in this current role of leadership. So think about one day politician. No, it was something that I've always, you know, been doing in my own right, in my own way, that has led me to this point.
It is the second attempt.
Oh yes, by the way, that's good. I might take it win is the first time. Not a lot of people that I ran for Senate in 2022, and then got this close to winning, but I lost. But also I gained a lot of knowledge when I campaigning, structure your campaign and eventually win. So in 2024, a position that was available was opening. Oh no, here we are.
Maybe nado montanaro ada kama nyanga, maybe was it a kind of a change of tactics? Sasa kenjo maybe policies che dipanga ni nchikole tigasi okaira na back okari strategize. This second time okanyora obubwi. What were your ideologies che drive it to your win?
I think the biggest thing is understanding. I might take it na mnyogete for Senate in 2022. Tina manyete how to run a campaign. How do you build a team yao? And then the most important thing that I learned from 2022 to 2024 race is kyoko use data to make decisions, right? One I was so focused on mobilizing abantu waitu wa vote. My friend, they are busy but then when I looked at the primaries where I lost, who voted, Songo and the other cultures, okay, this time around, I will focus on those people, because once I win primary, then in my district, because it's a blue district, meaning it's a Democratic district and not a Republican district, then so I focused specifically on the people that over the last 5 years they go show that they vote. And then in get there, after that, then I can go back to my community. But they won't know, I'll be on the final ballot. Vote. Yes.
Not on the same. You know, in Minnesota we understand is the diverse of population. Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, like diverse African population. So far, reception have they to an extent that they are supporting you now as their own?
I mean, at the end of the day, I went to elections, right? Yeah. But ultimately, I think it was a win not just for our Kenya, but for the African community. In my district, it has that the Asian community are the leaders in my district. So Konyoromo Africa, now tunajivunia that we have at least one person. So we are trying to add more so that it can reflect the population of my district. I think my district is the most diverse racially. Go to whatever Africa, go to whatever Asia, go to whatever Songo, African Americans. So the goal for me was to build a coalition that actually encompasses Abanta Wanspi. And it's challenging because our Asian babate their customs, right? Our Latino babate bintubiabo, our Songo bintubiabo. So to bring all these people together, the work community at the bono, ni enjoy your energy no mogusi, kaking akere chingo be monumento. How do you now pursue? I said these are now different ideas. Like you representative we can one solution. Let us talk of this. And to my United States, they differ on ideologies, Republican and Democrats. You are a member of a party that is affiliated as the Democratic Party. Now that your candidate didn't make it, Mheshimiwa Kamala Harris, Mheshimiwa Donald Trump, because the ideologies don't merge, to make sure yes, in a questioning Yasana, because at the end of the day, this is the current administration. Yes, although my candidate didn't win, but that's the epitome of democracy. That's why the rest of the world, America is advanced in their political process. I think we allowed people to vote for their candidate. And so when and we get who we are mandated to work with them the best way we can, even though our ideologies are completely different. The current administration, obviously, now what the policies that do not align with a lot of the policies that my party aligns with, but at the same time, you find opportunities to bridge that gap where the opportunities that where we can work together and actually serve everybody. Because you have to remember that because I was elected through the Democratic Party does not mean that I don't serve anybody who is not a Republican. I serve everybody who's in my district. And so right now that's ultimately the goal. Finding ways, common ground, finding compromise where we can come together and serve the people who are elected us.
Bueno, unayochore mwakilishi wa wananchi wa sensemeli ya Minnesota. Having been a victim of the Kenyan-born immigrant, and the policies Republican on immigration, what solutions kwa bekira se emesa yo kwaneke una super ibago you're going to pursue for justice as abantu bali immigrants or the unrecognized and unwanted communities, especially as a locality of Minnesota?
A very good question. I think America is at the crossroads in terms of immigration, in terms of what it means to be a citizen, or just the different statuses under the Constitution. And we have to remember that the Constitution of the United States guarantees certain rights to everybody. It doesn't matter whether you're an immigrant, it doesn't matter your status. And so I think for us, and especially the state of Minnesota, the goal is to make sure that we are taking care of people, first and foremost, the humanity of people. And the current administration has made it very difficult to really pursue justice. The Constitution says that people are provided due process from the justice system before any steps is taken. So the goal right now in the state of Minnesota is to making sure that we are providing resources to address the different challenges that we are seeing, especially with the current administration and their policies around the immigrant community. And I also want to say this. Most of the immigrants who are in the state of Minnesota specifically, they are hardworking people. They have contributed to that state, both economically and socially. Abantu are working in fields where an average American cannot work. For example, our fields, where these people are working 12, 13, 16 hours a day, getting paid very minimum wage. That they're contributing into the society one way or another. And so to be able to find ways where we can, find a path forward. You might think immigration is a very complex. It's a complex topic in the United States, and there's no right answer. There's no magic wand. Here you go and we solve the immigration problem. But at the same time, for me, I think, especially with the state of Minnesota, we want to center everything on humanity, but also at the same time making sure that, people are going through the proper channels. And it's not easy to say that because my family went through the proper channels, my friend. That's why we always say that the U.S. Immigration process is very complex. And so to tell somebody to go through the proper channels, some of them might even take, for my family, it took 11 long years. So it's a really interesting space right now. We are in the state of Minnesota and even the country grappling with this complexity of the immigration issue. Yes.
Aranayu, Mheshimiwa Huldah, novegete umukisana kuonekea on the same you're working on it. Priorities chia policies chago keroga ndrete no Y'Oborai bago boko wakilisha wananchi bago, where are they?
Yeah, obviously my top priorities is the constituency that voted me in, the people who voted me in, and on top of that too, the people of Minnesota, because sometimes we sit here and we say only my people matter, my constituency matters. But if you look at how policies is created and passed, bills, how the bills are passed into law, we're passing bills that impact the whole entire state of Minnesota. So my priority is my constituency, but at the same time, the state of Minnesota. So if you asked me what those are, my constituency asked me to focus on a couple of things. Number one is housing, making sure that what the accessible housing that is affordable for everybody. Because not everybody wants to buy a big house, right? Not everybody, when you graduate, when you're young, a graduate from college, you're not looking to buy a house. Maybe you're looking for a apartment close to town so you can, live your life, right? So everybody, whatever the stages of life they are, we want to make sure they have equitable housing. Number two, public safety. You want to be able to, and you are able to just walk around and you feel safe in your own community. Healthcare. If your community is not healthy, you have a long way to go. So I'm championing. And then lastly, education. The cornerstone of a strong society is how learned and educated its population is. And so making sure that we're addressing early childhood, and we have resources for early childhood development initiatives. And then also making sure that college is affordable. It's affordable not only for low-income abantu, but to those people who are able to help themselves. And so those are the top priorities that I'm really championing, and I championed this last legislative cycle. Yes.
Because since your election, you've been to Kenya more often. narora take kumanya abana inchi bamenyete ense media ya Minnesota. By the way, kwa nyare kopako kopo munyakiro in one of the I believe the Gusii community group at the other side ngakikwa bekire mebere yoko neke unava Kenya barweta sorwete nae. They enjoy this diverse background, diverse culture. Ari Minnesota, umetega nisco yense aho, but how do you feel comfortable? Bye una barbunka bare. Now their own Nike and stick rogo.
I think that you can't take Gusii out of Gusii. You know where they are. Gusii is Gusii. Igonka, right? But I think for me, I've been very intentional about making sure how this process works. Because what I realized early on is that when you don't know how a process can work, then you don't participate. You know, Abantu only knows, most of our people only know 3 things, right? Esukuru, ekanisa, negasi. Right? But the political process here, we are slowly coming around. Wait a second. Again, they can get that impacts our lives. No, by the way, and my sister, Lina Nyamwaya, who just announced that she's running for Minnesota House of Representatives. So, to answer your question, that's a clear example that Abantu now have realized that we also belong here, that we also are contributing, and we also have to participate in this electoral process. And we are very proud of Gusii in Minnesota, and we want to maintain that culture. But at the same time, we've also branched out to welcome and be inclusive of other cultures that are around us. Yes.
Because you mentioned about this now Kenyans, and as you continue visiting your background, where you came from, like does your roots, when you identify yourself with the background, you're coming from Kenya, you're born in Kenya, does it affect you in any way as in the House of Representatives?
I think it does, and it depends on how you look at it. If you can either look at it from a negative perspective or a positive perspective, but at the end of the day, I'll never separate myself from Asen Kurukuru. You know, I take pride in being Gusii, but at the same time, I also take pride in being a Kenyan American that has been duly elected by the people. Not just Gusii. The numbers of Gusii in my district is not enough. But I think what sold it for the community is that they understood where I come from. You know, I was very vocal. This is where I come from. These are my roots. And to be honest, the reason why I'm even here is because I led Mwanyagetinge. So that allowed me to really hone my leadership skills, and that propelled me to where I am today, and very proud of it. Even the sessions on the floor of our bunge, I'm proud to say, and this is our culture, and this is our tribe, and sometimes I very much wear our cultural attires to reflect the culture, because the beautiful thing about America is this: they welcome everybody, right? And they celebrate different cultures. So who am I to deny myself of who I am at one I want to assimilate to what, my friend? You know, I'm here.
Where you work, where we see videos all over, like Nore Prodinga, Abanaba Minto, and such like, and that also motivated Abananchi Kurase and Semega. Our senior political editors, you have several activities, philanthropist. Kenya. Tell us something about that.
Although I'm very proud to be Kenyan American, I'm also very much interested in the welfare of Abantu Waitoga. So back in 2013, I started a small project initiative called Sunny Naps. It provides reusable sanitary towels to growers, because I realized period poverty. You know, this is something that Abantu Waitoga still struggle with. So that's one of the projects that I do. Within that umbrella of Sunny Naps, we also do a feeding program to various schools within Gusii region. And then on top of that, we also implement, sporting goods to various schools so that we can also bring in our young boys, right? So to learn and to participate in this process. So there's a couple of things that I do here in Kenya to really give back to my roots, right?
Society, yeah.
In America, especially Minnesota, there's a lot of resources that most of the time that are no longer needed there. So I try to channel some of those resources back here to the people who actually need it on the ground here. Yes.
Yeah, singin chontwaro cheka aliko kusanga napasubati ababuraka nabego karwe sabari ya babu mino nere unanya tuko baga ko inspire all that. Ikobono Innocent Onyango, by the way, is a political senior editor. You have a lot of activities going around the country. In as much as Minnesota, but no make sure Enkwana in a good way. Na say okoriago chikokora I didn't na to wanchira second you have a lot of activities. I say your journey in quest for leadership, have you faced any barriers maybe can it be implicit or explicit? As a Enkwana Y'Oborai, you've tried it once, and you are continuing it.
Yes.
Any barriers?
This journey, it doesn't matter what you do, you're always going to find barriers. The difference is how do you handle those barriers. And for me, I think if you'd ask me what is the biggest barrier is the idea of always trying to prove myself. You know, I have 3 undergrad degrees, I have a master's, and I have all of these various experiences. But then in Gwenda, you know, are you even qualified? I'm even qualified than half of the field in the campaign. So being a woman, especially being mwamu in America, brings its own challenges, including racism. I remember one time I was campaigning, and then I was because they didn't believe that I was actually a candidate in that community, very affluent community. And so there's challenges, but for me, how I overcome those challenges, I think about what's at stake. I think about what they are missing at the table, because this past legislative cycle, the state of Minnesota, we passed a budget of $66 billion.
$60 billion.
It's a lot.
I want to take a calculator.
We did a calculator, right? But when you look at is to the different communities, right? And that's because they have people at the table. So you always hear this saying, if you're not at the table, you're where? You're on the menu. So that's why I'm always encouraging people, let's find ourselves at the table, so that, because Chiba said 66 billion, especially about Kenya, about Liberia, about Nigeria, Africans are contributing heavily, because and when we are working, what are we doing? We are paying taxes, and those are the taxes that now we have to balance to meet the needs of the state. And so there are challenges there, but at the end of the day, it's how we address them, and God has been gracious to me in that sense. Yeah.
With that energy, you're trying to work sense media you they receive services na bego kwene Kenya NC ya Kenya aba Kenya nkonya labare the same no ibiro kuru asorongo rwagusi ekemerie China kiya kiniria bange na kigenda to kubeka wero weto bagenda of late and semo yechi bonus ba very so disappointed aki semo ya Minnesota view championed no bosenaro kubori no nyara ko bakoko champion for this for the bargaining power sing jodi gori HIA kwenda isiko at the end of the day umuri miyori ode gusiga ari anyore en area the coffee reforms are really need reforms.
And now you're asking me about something that is happening here in America. I mean in Kenya.
Inakuja huko.
Inakuja.
So that how do you fight for us to your marketing here so that the returns also benefit
that is a good question. At the moment, I'm actually the main reason is because I want to map out. I'm a part of a group of community leaders, legislators that are putting together an economic trade mission in January. We are trying to see how we can collaborate with the country of Kenya and the state of Minnesota to create open channels for mutually beneficial initiatives. And you know, we want to target 4 areas. One of them is agriculture, another one is technology, education, and healthcare. And so because you brought up tea and coffee, agriculture is that piece. Whether we are sharing technologies and equipments, you know, where our companies from the state of Minnesota, and they show your farmers how we do it over there. But at vice versa, to also see how, because abantu baito Kenyan tea and Kenyan coffee. So how do we make it easier for them to come to get those things to Minnesota so that our Minnesotan people can benefit? Yeah.
Thank you so much. We saw you kerokwanya tukoba gogo cha sense ya Kenya. You've mentioned the priorities chaga sense media ya Minnesota. Education is one of them. Nkombe na tuno mwaziri wechisemi Mheshimiwa Julius Migosi Ogamba.
Yes.
What was the talk at the center of your meeting? As Okwenekanga Chisemi, those guys of traveling to Kenya to Minnesota, Konyora Baridi Bagadio Konyora Chisemi.
I think my conversation with the CS, first of all, let me just thank him for the time.
Yeah.
I definitely understand that it's a busy time, and he made that time for my team and I. For us, our conversations were centered on how do we collaborate together to build initiatives that are mutually beneficial. For example, in the state of Minnesota, the next couple of years is projected that the population of it will be bigger than the older generation will be that the population of it will be too big that we can't even handle ourselves in terms of care, right? So what I talked with CS about was how do we bring the nursing program to the US and put it in our institutions here, so that the Kenyans who are interested in going into the healthcare field, nursing assistants, they can go through that program already that is already established there. And so that way, by the time they're done taking their exams, they're automatically ready for the American market because they've gone through an American model. So those are the kind of conversations we were having, trying to figure out what are some of the ways that we can work together, number one, to tap into a very learned population here in Kenya. And number two, if you look at the rest of the continent of Africa, I would personally say, and not because I'm biased, but because of the truth, that Kenya is the gateway to the African continent. The Asian markets already have been saturated. The European markets, we know what they are, right? The African continent, that's where it's at. And Kenya is at the epicenter of all of it. And so, because it speaks English, is in Swahili is the national languages, right? It makes it easier for us to tap into the Kenyan market and population to address the shortages that we have in our state. Yes.
Igobano mwancho morigeria nanya tukobaga gutware Enkwana yo abananchi moigure gagunga nebakara sense media nagenda takwene kyama baganko igokare uchase balete by the way abantu nabange gabaga ntakote banga hongera sana Mheshimiwa Huldah Momanyi bagote banga good to see you back bagote banga east or west is still the best. Upon the Gaiga, Naro Obori Gaga Sokoria go Corda. Now, what is your long-term plan or vision? Kerogan that Enkwana Y'Oborai Wagase and Semedia Yoko Akilisha Avananchi, whatever I say district Jagasa State in Minnesota. What is your long-term plan? What are you aiming going forward? No matter as a politician, you are so ambitious, we believe so.
I think my ambition is to serve my constituency, Senate District 38A, the people who elected me. And keep in mind, I just arrived. Now, what ambitions do I have? My friend, let me focus and do a good job so that when I run for re-election, I'm planning on running for re-election. Minnesota, I'm planning to run for re-election. That they could see the works that I've done, and hopefully it's good enough for them to and we'll go from there. Right now, to be honest, I'm fairly new. I'm an expert in this space. I'm not. I've literally been in this space not even a year. And so I'm also learning how this space works so that I can better serve my constituency the more I'm in this space. Yes.
Bueno, ase okoria gukora ntomaete abakenya nabange bnae bare asense media Minnesota, and you mentioned abange by Soki, you mentioned someone like Nyamwea abande ngwe Soki bara abanga bange. What would be your message asenjo already awetira asenjirega kwa manyire where the potholes are, where you can go easy, where you can go hard? kwandrangu mwananchi ure skogari nere urwate ure young and ambitious kobomurai hibunaye. It can be in the country Kenya, it can be outside Kenya.
First of all, let me acknowledge Abaiseke, you are capable, by the way. You have everything in you to succeed. If politics is where God is leading you, then step into it. But in general, I want to tell Bantu, whether it is here or in Minnesota or anywhere, that leadership is there for the taking. But what you do with it will matter. You know, anybody who is interested in being in this political space also understand the magnitude that comes with this. There's a lot of work. It's not easy being in this space. But at the same time, we need good leaders. We need good leaders to step up and run. So before you look at me and see all of this, also ask yourself, why do you want to run? Don't run because Huldah ran. You know, I have my why. So I always tell people who are like, I want to be a politician, I want to run, I want to lead. I always ask them, why do you want to lead? You know, ask yourself, why do you want to lead and why do you want to serve? If it's not rooted in Abantu, serving people, then you don't belong in this space of leadership. Because a lot of times, I find people stepping into spaces just because of a title. Me, I would care less whether or not I have a title. God called me to serve people even when I was very young. And I was fortunate enough to have my father Philip and my mother Tabitha, all the way in Minnesota, to instill in me that spirit of service and that sacrifice. So as a leader, if you want to step into this space and you're not willing to sacrifice yourself, you're not willing to put in the work that it takes, and you're not willing to listen to the people that you're trying to serve, then my friend, this is not the space for you. And unfortunately, we've seen what bad leadership has done in various spaces, you know, whether it is here, whether it is in America, we've seen. And so I want to encourage our people, be people of integrity. People of Yani, you are stepping into this because you want to serve people, because you want to offer your skill set and your time and your sacrifice in service to people. Yes.
The second last question. Abasaya, they are projected to be the majority in the coming years. It can be in Africa, United States, as a chinde. What to make with mitando wekerero, wabere so rampant. Nowadays, killer youth and some online. You know, we've had the Gen Z revolutions. It has happened elsewhere. In terms of questing for good leadership and governance, they're very to bring in chaos, so that there is a good channel they can use to make good leaders out of them, like you've mentioned.
I'm so glad you brought that question up. I think there's power in unity, and I want to acknowledge the Gen Z is what they've brought, right? The Republic of Kenya is a country of democracy, right? The people choose their leaders. And if you don't participate, you can make all the keleles you want, but if you are not a part of the process and you're not fighting for your rights, then all the noise that you're making is pointless, right? So to my Gen Zs out there, let me encourage you. Continue fighting for your right, but at the same time, that right should be rooted in your voice and your vote. So right now, Kenya, what is Kenya doing right now? Registration of voter registration, right? So that's the first step. All these Gen Zs that have been out here in the streets, register to vote. I won't tell you to vote for, because that's your personal right to choose your leaders. But at the same time, the first step that I want to encourage you, register yourself, so that you are able to vote when that time comes, so that you can pick the leaders that you want. Momanyi who you want to vote for, but you can't do that without this first step of registration. So that's what I want to encourage our young people. And then also know that you have the right to speak your mind, because you're the next, you are the generation that will lead the next generation of Kenya. And so the root goal for the Gen Zs to really get the leaders that they want is to make sure that they exercise their right to vote. Yes.
Naso gukora bono you've I know Mogusi no iborere gusi
Nabo
no abagusi na banga mete nsemo ya Minnesota. And now what will be your word towards Keroto and that Kobori of Mogusi? It can be in the country, it can be outside the country. You've been a leader Sekyombeke Mokyo Mogusi for around 3 years I think also. Obo semi wa bombo ribura bucha so Mogusi that aine kyo bomo kerarenka na kero arisko yanga.
And let me be hopefully, I want to encourage our people. You know, from the likes of Nyachais to Maraga to Matiangi, all of these people who've contributed heavily into not only the development of this country, but also Abagusibari outside of Kenya, you know, especially Minnesota. We have very smart Washington State, Abagusibari, very learned and very successful in business. I want to encourage us this. We are a people who are very hardworking, but we work in siloed spaces. We always champion this, but you really dig down into what this all of these different groups within Omogusi. But imagine if Omogusi can come together and say the true meaning of Omogusi, not where you come from, Nyamira, Kisi, no, together what we can do, not only just here in Kenya, but also in Minnesota. For example, when I was running the first time, you know, I went to our community, think about my community. I want to run. You know, I want to run for this seat because I believe that, you know, we can help our community. It's my same community, my friend who gave you permission to run. The white counterparts, the Asian, you name it, all of these other tribes, different cultures, to our community, and we welcome them. You know, so that's where you see that there's a disconnect there, where into our we don't even come together, but that's changing. I've seen a shift. Now that I've won Momanyi, this thing is possible. Exactly. And so I'm hoping that this is, and especially with everything that's going on in the Kenyan political climate, with obviously having Maraga and Matiangi in the race, hopefully that's bringing Abagusi together. Because as you can tell, other tribes are coming together and they're putting their people together. You know, you've seen what our President Ruto has done with yes, Wimoy, right? And that is him mobilizing his community. There's nothing wrong with Abagusi mobilizing. We have a block here that also has a say, you know, and that's why I want to also encourage our people in Minnesota that, you know, our sister Lina is running. You know, I'm there, I'm running. You know, why can't we come together and mobilize around our own and see what happens? I won't tap into here in Kenya because I'm a U.S. asset, and so I can't speak specifically on Kenyan politics or who to support or what candidates support. But at the same time, there's beauty in collective unity. And when we say Omogusi, does not mean this clan, that part of this, it's togetherness. And when we come together, the last time I saw Abagusi that came together was back when Nyachai was running. Do you remember? Everybody came together. Everybody, even whoever, if it was a candidate, they were under one umbrella. And we came so close. Although we didn't win, we came so close.
But Mheshimiwa,
yes.
I can ask you this intentionally.
Yeah.
On personal capacity, you name it, Chief Whip Silvana Zosoro,
yes.
Anthony Kibagendi.
Oh, yes.
Recently we saw Mojumbo Kitutu Masava, Clive Mbanegi Sairona. But
oh, yes.
Recently you met almost, yes. What do they tell you in their personal capacity about Omogusi in general? What is their quest?
I think ultimately all of us, whatever camp you're in, down deep inside, we know that we want Omogusi. Now, how we go about it, that's where we differ. And that one I will leave it to Wakira Kiwagendi. Now Soro, they come together as brothers because they're brothers. I mean, there was a clip that they put there one time where they were both jumping in their own candidates, which is fine. But at the end of the day, we as Omogusi have to grapple with the idea of Omogusi. And if we want to be serious about that, and to be honest, it doesn't even have to be politically charged. You know, we don't have to wait until politics brings us together. Why can even come together as Omogusi? As Omogusi, this is what we want to do. For example, our diaspora people, I want to challenge you. Especially those of us in the US. Why can't we come together as Omogusi? Gusi land. We can outfit the whole entire healthcare system, you know, and make sure that our people get good healthcare. Again, I feel like we allow ourselves to be brought together by politics. It doesn't have to always be politics. You know, so when we say Omogusi has to go beyond politics, at least that's where in my mind, that's where I come from. I'm challenging whether it is here in Kenya or in the diaspora. Omogusi does not have to be centered on politics. There's still a lot that we can do as Omogusi, because if we go down this rabbit hole of politics, we won't come together. So I want to encourage our people, let's go outside of politics and bring our Gusi community together and truly mean it when we say Omogusi. Whether you're on the same political party as me or not, we are still Omogusi. We still respect one another. We still sit here and have a meal together as Omogusi. Yes.
Thank you so much, madam, for coming.
Yes.
I don't want to share a time to again. You're a few days in the country. Go Gusi. Was going to Gusi already?
I mean, Gusi. I mean, Kenya thing. And I was in thing going to.
Now, do you have plans?
Yes. I am going to Kisii, and the main reason in Enkwana Gusi is to see my family. I have to go see my grandmother, Baba Kirubo, and a couple of other family members, and a couple of engagements in Gusi, and then I'll continue. Yes. And
the same philanthropist exercises, innocent. Some of them are happening in Kisii?
Oh yes, there's some things that are happening in Kisii, and you just watch my channels. Yes.
Let's follow you. Thank you so much. As SG Studio Joito, na dembe yamona say go create time. I know you have a very busy schedule, like in the Panyara Kovago. Find something and some space you go kwandromo gusi na we go sanga into. We appreciate so much, and we'll keep in touch. Never bono kerode iskogari. We can link up and share more as you again sense. We wish you well, and we go assemble because you have another meeting. We understand. Thank you so much for your honor. Thank you so much for coming. I want to murira to wakira mbiyamuna se bali basanga chi ujumbe ama bodio na bali ba akachisi mikonene ntonyale tukoba toko bwato mwishima Huldah Momanyi otebire nwari tari kogenda tarika gusiga wigo uko igunga kende biriri atombire around ga gumanyanga nere so kamusanga senchira erengia Brana Chaka Victor Obangi ne timu ingi makuru ase studio akabere koragona director zaki Kenya to sabagendra gutwara hoborigeri buyabwemero beriagendra tekoroga chinsa isato korana nda semesa yamayi yakuru ensoko chinsa isato to sange kwenda siboniga bye bye chenkoro kwa Clinton Ndigi.